fourth class on the Maamar of the Lubavitcher Rebbe from Tav Shin Nun 1989 about the giving of the Torah. And now the Rebbe has asked a question. He's going to answer the question. He asked a question about the giving of the Torah. Why did the Ten Commandments start off where God he introduces himself and says, I am God that took you out of Egypt? It should say a bigger miracle. I am God that creates the heavens and the earth. Because creating the heavens and the earth means that he creates Egypt. Creating something is bigger miracle than just changing it. Taking the Jews out of Egypt was just changing Egypt. He just made miracles. God changed nature. Creating the heavens and the earth means that God creates nature. He creates everything. Okay, with me? Kobe, with us? Sure? Yeah? You're in your dream mode. Huh? No coffee. Okay. Yeah, so that's the question. Why does God say in the Ten Commandments, I am God that took you out of Egypt? Why is that the first commandment? It should be, I am God that creates the heavens and the earth. And the Rebbe says that creating in the heavens and the earth also would tell us something, that God is doing it constantly. And that from that we would get the idea that the Torah should be brand new all the time, constantly. In fact, when God gave the Torah, he gave us the power to see that everything is brand new all the time. That the Torah is brand new all the time. It says, and like when we make the blessing on the Torah, how do we make a blessing on the Torah? Colby, when we make a blessing on the Torah, how do we end the blessing? Asher b'chabanu mikol, Hashem, what? Nosei in the Torah. Nosei means what? Giving, right now. So it's always supposed to be brand new. The Torah is supposed to be brand new. And you realize, what does it mean brand new? That you feel the godliness in it. That's what it says the Mashiach is going to make a new Torah. In the prophet Isaiah it says, Torah mi'itei teitzei, and there's a midrash that says, Torah chadasha mi'itei teitzei. A new Torah is going to come from the Mashiach. What does it mean? The Mashiach is going to make up new laws? He's going to knock out old laws? No, that's forbidden. You can't do that. Exactly the opposite. The Mashiach is going to bring all the Jews to do the Torah. Put on tefillin and keep Shabbos and etc. So what does it mean new? It means that people are going to feel the godliness in it. It's going to be new, like the first day it was given. Even higher, more, you feel more godly. In every commandment, in every word. Good. That was the second paragraph. The third paragraph, the Rebbe said that really the fact is that the Torah does start out with the creation of the world. We're Bereshis. And also that's the written Torah. And the oral Torah starts out with the creation of the world. Where do we see the oral Torah? What's the oral Torah? What is that? What is the spoken Torah? Right. That's what like give me an example of a book. Oral Torah. Gemara. So the oral Torah also begins with the creation of the world. Where does the oral Torah begin with the creation of the world? Where? In the... One second. In the where? No, that's the written Torah. And where? No. In the Rambam. The Rambam, which is the summary of all the oral Torah, starts out with the creation of the world. Right? Let me just finish the summary and then we'll ask a question. So we see that the written Torah does begin with the creation of the world in Bereshis. And the oral Torah also begins with the creation of the world. Where? In the Rambam. The Rambam starts out that the foundation of all foundations, that there's a first creator, and he creates everything from his true being, and that if he wasn't there, nothing would be able to exist. Right? So the Rebbe said there in the Rambam, you can see, not only is it said that God created the world, but it says that he created the world from his true essence, and that he's creating it all the time. The Rambam even explains more. So we see that the Torah does begin with the creation of the world, and the written Torah and the oral Torah begins with the Smith creation of the world. So, and not only that, but we see that the written Torah, the Ten Commandments, before the Ten Commandments was given, also before the Ten Commandments was given, right before that, maybe open the door so these things go outside. Open the door. It's a nice day outside also. You can open it up. Also, right before God gave the Torah, the sentence before the Ten Commandments says that God spoke all of these words to say. And there already explains that the word to say means that you'll be able to say them in all the future generations, that when you say the words of Torah, you can feel like it wasn't the first time, if you think properly. So if so, that also contains a little bit the creation of the world, to feel everything is brand new all the time. But nevertheless, we still remain with the question, Baruch? No, Gemara is part of Mishnah is also a commentary. What's a Mishnah? Mishnah is the commentary on the written Torah. All this is called the oral Torah. The Mishnah, the Gemara, the Midrashim, the Zohar, right, Kabbalah, all these things are considered to be. Some people say Zohar and Kabbalah is really Torah Shebechtav. It's really the written Torah. But anyway, let's say for our purposes, it's Midrash, so it's the oral Torah. All these commentaries. The only thing that is the written Torah is what's called Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. Ketuvim. The Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the Nevi'im, all the prophets, and the Ketuvim, like the books like the Tehillim and Psalms and Proverbs and things like that. Book of Esther. All right. Okay, so we're now left with a question. Okay, is there more coffee upstairs? Yeah. You want to go upstairs and get coffee? Okay. Who can I get? Okay, a cup of a mensch can. There's a saying in Yiddish that you can't put. You have a person with a new heart, but you can't give him a new head. The word for head in Hebrew is in Yiddish is cup. A cup is a head. So you say a cup can nishtel and mensch. You can't put a head with a little cup. You're missing a cup in this one. Okay. So here we go. Now, so we're still with our question, which is what? What is our question? Why don't the Ten Commandments begin with the creation of the world? It's a bigger miracle. It's constant. It's important to us. The creation of the world. God is creating the world constantly. Let's go. Ready? The bottom of the page. Ella, but you want a pen? You have a pen? Ella, but af al pikin, nevertheless, hatchala, the beginning. The Matan Torah of the Torah. The Gilui in a revealed way in Torah Shebechtav, in the written Torah. He is Anochi Hashem Elokeicha. I am God, your God. Asher that. Hotzeiticha took you out in Eretz Yisrael of Egypt. Why? Why didn't God start the Ten Commandments with the creation of the world? What's the problem? And not only that, I mean, listen, folks, you have to remember, the Ten Commandments appears in the Torah. In the Torah, it tells us the whole story. It starts off with Shmos, with Exodus. So we already have the book of the chapter of Exodus, and then we have Va'era, then we have Bo, then we have Beshalach. 4 chapters that tell us about how God is speaking to Moshe to take the Jews out of Egypt, how there were 10 plagues, how Moshe took them out, how the sea split. Those things were already told. We already know that God took the Jews out of Egypt. Right? When the Jewish people that were standing on Mount Sinai saw God at the splitting of the sea. Right? They knew that these miracles were coming back. Why did God have to say the 10 Commandments in the beginning? I am God that took you out of Egypt. Everybody saw it. Huh? But they all saw God taking them out of Egypt. They all felt it. What was he telling them? I took you out of Egypt. We'll see. You're right, but in a different way than what you think. Listen. Nevertheless, as Chal, the beginning of Matan Torah and Giloi, in the written Torah is Anochi Hashem Elokeicha that I took out of Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because Kavana, the intention, the Briyat Olam, the reason why God created the world, with the Matan Torah and of Matan Torah, He is Bishvil, for the sake of Yisrael. The whole reason God gave the Torah. And the reason that God created the world, why, is for the Jews. He did the whole thing for the Jews. What do you mean he did the whole thing for the Jews? That we should be kings, we should be rulers, we should... No. It's not it. He created the world so that the Jews would be able to work. That the Jews would be able to serve Him. He created the world in order that the Jews would be able to improve it and perfect it. We'll see. You won't say. God created the world for the Jews. As that, the Yiddish. Write it down. Kobe, you don't know the words. Come on, write it down. You go home, but you should write it down. Write it down. Come on, be awake. So you don't need tea, coffee. You'll learn to live without coffee. It's possible to live without coffee, right? Mr. Well, this is a good example. Yeah, but it is possible to live without coffee. He is B'Shvil Yisrael for the sake of the Jews. As that, they, Zolin should, Durach Gein, experiencing, Ha'inyan, they should not, well, experiencing is one way. They should, I say, go through. They should go through, Ha'inyan, the topic. The Mitzrayim, of Mitzrayim, Lashon, which is the language, an expression of. Here, take more Maamorim. Here. Take. One second. You can pass them out to everybody. Sorry, I didn't do this. An expression of Meitzar Ugavul, of limitation, and I didn't say limitation and boundary, obstacles. A gvul means that a person should see where you have the page. You have the proper page. No, you're on the right page. Yeah. So that the Jewish people should first of all experience, or they should go through the idea of limitations and difficulties. Difficulties and limitations. Meitzah, let's translate, retranslate. Meitzah, the previous word, Meitzah means difficulties. Ugavul, and limitation. Kama, you with this, Baruch? See, you have it? Kama, and sheyiyeh, there should be, etzlam, by them, hayetziyah, going out, mikol, from all, meitzarim, difficulties, ugvulim, and limitations. What's the beginning? I am God that took you out of Egypt. What does Egypt mean? Egypt means limitations, things that stop you from doing good, things that prevent you from doing good. Very nice. There's a lot of midrashim and things like that. Right, very, very nice. Well, what is Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim. Good. Mitzrayim is that a person thinks that he cannot connect himself with God. That he cannot be himself. Right? In Egypt, what happened in Egypt? The Jewish people were slaves. For 210 years they were slaves. Jewish people totally lost their identity. They thought that that's what a Jew is. That a Jew is a slave. His father was a slave. His grandfather was a slave. His great-grandfather was a slave. Right? A Jew was synonymous with a slave. The Jews really thought that they were slaves. Like a person who's an addict. People are addicted to drugs or to gambling or to eating or to whatever is violence or whatever they're into. Or people that get depressed all the time. People get angry all the time. They think that that's what they have to do. They don't think they have a choice or a chance to leave. That's who they are. They're addicted people. They have to smoke. They have to drink. They have to. But they don't have to. It's a lie. It's a lie. They don't have to do those things. You can live perfectly fine without gambling or drinking or eating, overeating or getting angry. People do it all the time. You see, there's millions of people who live without these things. Why can't he do it? Because he thinks he can't leave. He can't get out. Or he thinks he's stupid. Or he thinks he's inferior. Or he feels guilty. People feel guilty. I'm evil. I'm bad. I'm this. I've done wrong. I've messed my whole life up. I'm terrible. Right? That's how the churches and these things, they work. They play on that. And people feeling, whoa, I've messed everything up. I feel so bad. He says, come with us. We'll save you. People think that they're limited. People think that the whole world is against them, right? The whole world, and the fact is, the world's very big. It's very scary. Here I am all alone. Wow, the whole world is, what are you going to do? Right? So they say, well, you go and you gamble, all of a sudden you feel like you're a master. You take a couple drinks, you feel I'm the king. So that's why the world, that attitude toward the world is called Mitzrayim. It's called Egypt. It's called, like you say, you can get in, but you can't get out. That's what the person thinks he can't get out. That's exactly what prevents a person from Judaism. That's all the religions in the world, all the ideas, all the philosophies and others, all of these things prevent a person. They all try to explain why you can just be yourself, a false self, not a real self. Why you should not try to awaken something infinite inside of you. Why you shouldn't find meaning, shouldn't find happiness. And that's Egypt. We're not talking about people who are necessarily non-religious. As soon as you become religious, you've got it. No, 100% not. Not 100%, but you can be Jewish and do the Jewish religion and do Torah mitzvahs and be a chassid and learn chassidut, and you'd still be in Egypt. In fact, everybody to a certain degree is in Egypt. Every person to a certain degree has to go out of his limitations. And as soon as a person says, I'm not going to go out, that's it, I'm stuck here, so then he's stuck in Egypt to certain degrees. Right? Certain degrees. That's why people get angry. That's why religious people, we're talking about religious people, right? They get angry, they get depressed, they get all these etc. feelings because they're in Egypt. They don't want to go out. It says that's the first of the Ten Commandments. God says, listen, you should know, I created the world, yes, and the world is a big Egypt. The world is a big nature, and it's going to trap you. And that's nature. The nature of nature is that it traps people. And people think they can't go out and they can't change. Because you should know, I am God that took you out of Egypt. I created Egypt, yes, but there's a bigger miracle. Why I created it? I created it so you'll go out of it. What does it mean? How can you go out of the creation? What does it mean you go out of the creation? You become spiritual, you become not attached. No. You become attached to Hashem. You use the creation for what it's created for. Let's look and see. Hotzeiticha, I took you out. Hotzeiticha, I took you out. Right, Colby, right. Come on, right. Be with us. Hotzeiticha, I took you out. Me'eretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Egypt. Va'afilu, even. Beit Avadim, even from the house of slavery. Sheyihiyu, that they would be mushlalim. How do you say mushlalim? It would be, you want, like inoculated. Inoculated is a good word. Inoculated. What does it mean? Inoculated. No. Inoculated means you take a shot so that you won't get this disease. It's an inoculation. Right? I'll say, mushlalim, they will be, how do you say, the mushlal means to be negated. They will be taken out. They would be muslim, they would be inoculated. You know what inoculated means, Kobe? What? Right. That you get protected. They were protected. Me'avodot. It would be impossible for them to avodot, me'avdut, slavery. They would be inoculated against slavery. Libasar vadam, to people. Basar vadam means humans. Nicole, be right with us. No, come, be with us. You're not. You're not with us. Where? No, it's the end of the line. No, completely not. The azo, no matter what, shehi, it is. First word in the line, shehi, it is. Why are you never going to be able to be a slave to any person or any idea or any why? Because li b'nei Israel, to me are the Jewish people, avadim, servants. Li, to me, la'atzmos u'mahus, to God's essence and God's, how do you say essence? Another word for essence. Vishtari, and my claim, Shtari is my claim. Kobe, please be with us. No, come on. What are you doing? Please. Third line down, second word from the end. Second word from the end. There we go. What? Atzmos Mahus means God's essence and his being. Vishtari, and my claim, my document, the shtar, my document, Kodem is first. My claim is first. Hashem says, what does it mean my claim is first? Two people want a house, right? And you say, I bought the house, here I have a deed. Another common person says, but I bought the house also. Here's my deed. So how do you decide who owns the house? Right? You say you bought the house from Mr. Smith, and I say I bought the house from Mr. Smith. Right? Mr. Smith tricked us. He sold us both houses. What is this? So first of all, we go and we check out the signatures, and it seems to be valid signatures. You know, maybe one of them is a forgery. Right? No, it's not. We try to call up Mr. Smith, and all we get is a answering service. Right? Where is it? Mr. Smith is out of the office for now. He's gone to an undetermined destination for an undetermined amount of time. Right? So what are we going to do? So the answer is no. You look at the document and you see which date is first. Huh? If there's the same date, you got big problems. But if one of the dates is first, then you know that you bought the land first, and the other person was tricked. So that's what God says. The Jewish people, there's the world, and there's me. Who owns the world? The Egyptians, which is the world, or me? I own the world. He says, well, the Egyptians were serving the Jews. They were enslaving the Jews first. The whole Jewish nation was born in Egypt, right? The whole Jewish nation was raised up in Egypt. There was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They came down with only 70 people to Egypt, and when they went out with like 3 million people. So in those 210 years, there was a tremendous. The whole Jewish people were brought up in Egypt. So the Egyptians can say, hey, the Jews are ours. God says, listen, who put them in Egypt? Who said they were going to do? I did. My claim is first. My document is first. In other words, Jews have no business being slaves in Egypt. Egypt has no claim over the Jews. The only way that a person can get stuck into the world is if he wants to. Or he doesn't know any better. He wasn't educated. But as soon as a person gets educated, he can go out of Egypt. Doesn't mean he can't go out of Egypt. He can start serving Hashem, he can start being the person that Hashem wants him to be. What does Hashem want us to be? That we're never lazy, and we're never mean, and we're never egotistical, and we're never depressed. We're always in a good mood, right? We're never, we're not running after our desires, forbidden things. We get caught up in our our lusts. Not easy. Try to learn Torah whenever we can, do commandments whenever we can, help people whenever we can. Right? And we do it, why? Because that's what God wants. That's what He wants. So we become servants to God. Right? But Hashem says, who were your servants for first, me or the Egyptians? God says, my document is first. But one second, Egypt, we're born into the world. The world is a real place. The world is whole Egypt. We said the world, Egypt is nature. Nature was first, weren't they? We were born in the world. Here we are. And we have natures. Everybody has their mother and their father, their past, their experiences, their Oedipus complexes, all those crazy things, right? Everybody has their problems with society, with the world, with their peers, right? If you're born the middle brother, the second brother, the third brother, the last brother, right? You're going to have all sorts of hang-ups and all sorts of difficulties and complexes and things like that. That's the world that caused all these things. How can you go out of those things? You can't go out. Somebody just told me, I spoke to somebody the other day, that there was a psychiatrist, a great psychiatrist, a psychoanalyst, whatever he's called, that was together with Freud and Adler, and his name was Viktor Frankl. I've read a lot of books about him. I can just talk about it for a long time because I read a lot. He's very impressive, very impressive. And he has a totally different attitude toward what a human being is than anybody else. Anyway, so he passed away in 1997, and they went to a lecture of his from their university, like Brandeis. A woman told me the story. Brandeis University. They went to a lecture of his, maybe in the 70s or something like that. And he gave them a lecture, and he said that man is not a slave to his past. Each person can totally make himself into a new person, and everybody just hated it. She said she really liked it, and she talked to everybody else, and she was like the only one in the class that actually did tshuva, became religious. But all the other people in the class, they hated it. They thought it was just terrible because the philosophies of Freud and Adler were ruling totally, especially Freud, was totally ruling all education and all thinking, and their thought was, their way of thought is that man is basically an animal. He's trapped in the world. The best that you can do is just get rid of your problems. There's no goal as such. There's no goal to be a human being and to develop your sense of meaning in life and sense of spirituality in life and put joy and blessing into things. Their whole thing is just not to have problems. Just not to have problems. They're homeostasis. Just not to have any problems. Right? So what does it mean? That you're always going to be attached to your hang-ups and your neurosis and your psychosis and that in the past. But what you'll know how to deal with them so that you can, deal with it so you can get along in life. That's their whole goal. In other words, you're always in Egypt. That's what I'm trying to say. According to them, you're always in Egypt. Nature is always going to rule over you. Always going to rule over you. But just what? You have to understand how to get rid of the bad parts of nature. And this guy, Frankl, said, no. He's saying like this. You can become a totally new person. You become the person who you were meant to be. Right? You can become attached to your soul. You always find meaning and always find value and always find goodness and always find happiness in everything you do. Even the worst situations, even people that were in concentration camps and there was terrible situations, they could always find some infinite level that they could get out of their problems, get out of their Egypt. It's very deep. The Rebbe is saying the same thing. What's he saying? You're not in Egypt. The Jews are not born. Nobody was. The job of the Jews is to show the world to go out of Egypt. That's why the first of the 10 Commandments is, I am God, that what, Kobe? Took you out of Egypt. tell you that everybody has to go out of Egypt. Egypt is nature. You can go out of your nature. Shiyum Mushlomi, that this inoculated them against servitude to human beings, no matter what it is. Key, because to me, the Jewish people are slaves, servants to God's essence. My document is first. Yesh, there is. L'kasher zeh, to attach this. Im, with. Ha'inyan, the topic. Shematan Torah, that Matan Torah, Haya was, La'acharei, after, Sheikdimu Yisrael, the Jews preceded, Na'aseh, we will do, L'nishma, to we will understand. Before the Jews got the Torah, they said, first, we will do, and then they said, we'll understand. And then God gave them the Torah. But even though that the revelation, the Matan Torah of Torah, Haya was Mitzad Lamaila, from above. Matan Torah, God did it. He gave the Torah from above. Va'ani Matchil, I am the beginner. Nevertheless, Hayatzorich, it was necessary Leo to be Techila first, Hakdamat preceding, Na'aseh we will do, L'nishmat we will understand. Even though the God gave the Torah and He did everything, He took us out of Egypt, the Jews had to do something first. The Jews had to do, what did they do first? Borach? Right, they said Na'aseh before they said Nishma. They said they'll do it, and then they'll understand. The Jews had to do something. What did the Jews do first? Kobi? Na'aseh before Nishma. Right. What is that Na'aseh and Nishma? A bittul. This is what we call surrender, Leba'al Haratzon, to the source of will. Baal Haratzon means the Torah is God's will. God is the source of that will. In other words, they weren't just saying, we'll do the Torah. They're saying, we'll do whatever you say, God. Whatever you tell us. They weren't just saying, whatever it says in the Torah, we're going to do. They say, whatever you say, God, we're going to do. In other words, they not just that they gave themselves over to the Torah, but they gave themselves over to the giver of the Torah. Understand? It's a big difference. If you give yourself over to the Torah, so it means the Torah is my book, and I go according to this book, and this is the book. Like